Good afternoon, everyone. And on behalf of the L. Douglas Wilder School of Government and Public Affairs at VCU, welcome to the Wilder School Lunch and Learn series. We are thrilled to have you join us for today's special session, Soaring to New Heights, Transforming Travel and Economic Growth at RIC Airport, featuring Dr. Perry Miller and our insightful moderator, Dr. Nakina Douglas Glenn. Welcome. If this is your first time here, we're glad you joined us. Our free monthly virtual events aim to spark conversations, share knowledge, and connect you with leaders and change makers in our community. In each session, we bring together policymakers, visionaries, and trailblazers to discuss important issues of the day. I'm Stephen Dozier, Senior Director of Development at the Wilder School, and I have a few exciting updates for you before we get started. The Wilder School at VCU is gaining national attention. We are now ranked number 36 in public affairs, which puts us in the top 15% of programs nationwide. We're also ranked number 6 in our Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness program, and number 33 in Public Management and Leadership, highlighting our impact on public service education. We're excited to announce these rankings. Also, given the rankings, if you're thinking, oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. The Spring 2025 edition of the Wilder School in Action magazine celebrates the launch of Governor L. Douglas Wilder's library and digital collection in partnership with Virginia Union University. It features the largest ever Virginia Capital Semester cohort, notable faculty research, and inspiring alumni like Richmond City Council member Sarah Abu Baker. We also honor Dr. Richard Huff and Dr. Blue Woolridge for their leadership and mentorship, and there is a tribute to them in this magazine as well. So please scan the QR code that's on the screen and learn more about the latest information from the Wilder School. And if we could go back one slide, if you're thinking about graduate school, the final deadline for fall 2025 Wilder School Master's applications is July 1st. Don't miss your chance to take the next step in your academic journey. If you know someone who might be interested, spread the word. You could also use the QR code here. There's always something exciting happening at the Wilder School. Check out the links in our chat for more details. Now, without further ado, I am pleased to introduce our esteemed Dean, Dr. Susan Gooden. Dr. Gooden, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Welcome everyone to May Lunch and Learn. I know it's raining outside, but most of us are always excited about summer. And oftentimes that means summer travel through the Richmond Airport. And so we're delighted today that we're going to learn lots of great updates about what's happening at the airport and how it might impact future travel plans. To kick us off today, we are excited that our moderator is Dr. Nakina Douglas Glenn. Dr. Douglas Glenn has been at the Wilder School for 18 years. She serves as the director of our Research Institute for Social Equity, and she's also an associate professor in our public administration program. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Douglas Glenn.
Thank you, Dean Gooden. Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to welcome you here this morning. I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker, Dr. Perry Miller, who is president and CEO of the Richmond International Airport. With over 3 decades in aviation, Dr. Miller has held pivotal roles, including leadership positions at Houston's major airports and CEO in Jackson, Mississippi. Since joining RIC in 2019, he has spearheaded over $56 million in capital improvements, notably a 6-gate expansion of Concourse A and enhancements to accommodate international flights. Under his guidance, RIC was named the most efficient airport in North America by the Air Transport Research Society in 2023, reflecting his commitment to operational excellence. Dr. Miller's dedication to community engagement is evident through initiatives such as Power University, which promotes supplier diversity and economic inclusion. Dr. Miller also serves on numerous national and regional boards, including the U.S. Policy Council of Airports, Council International, and Chamber RVA. He recently completed a term as chair of AAAE, representing more than 10,000 airport professionals. He also serves on advisory boards for Texas Southern University and Hampton University, fostering the next generation of AVA professionals. Dr. Miller is a proud HBCU graduate of Texas Southern University. He holds degrees in airway science, transportation planning, and management. Please join me today in welcoming a transformational leader in aviation and public service, Dr. Perry J. Miller. Welcome.
Thank you for that kind introduction, Dr. Glenn. I will mute my screen and then share what I have for you. Let me know when you see it. Can you see my screen?
Not yet, Dr. Perry.
Okay, let's see here.
You are all set.
All right, great. Again, thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure for me to be here. We are in the midst of planning the next 5 years of growth in the Richmond region, but I want to just kind of introduce to you what our governance look like, what we've been doing since I've been here, and then kind of what we're doing to create a better way for you to fly out of the Richmond International Airport. Some of you may know, but the Capital Region Airport Commission is the governing body for the Richmond International Airport. It is comprised of 14 members. It was created in 1975 as a governance structure for the Richmond International Airport. Its current chair is James Holland out of Chesterfield. The vice chair, soon to be chair, is Charles McFarlane out of Richmond. Susan Dibble is the secretary. She's from the Hanover community. And Tyrone Nelson is the treasurer, and he's out of the Chesterfield region. So my board, my commission, is comprised of 4 jurisdictions. They are Richmond, the city of Richmond, Chesterfield County, Henrico County, and Hanover County. So it is true, I have 14 bosses, and that can be sometimes a bit of a challenge. Nonetheless, I usually get a vote of unanimous participation when we make recommendations to that team. My airport, your airport rather, has a $2.1 billion economic impact in the region. It affects approximately 16,000 jobs. At the airport itself, we have 2,600 badged people that work in and around the Richmond International Airport. Some of the things that contribute to our success, one is Richmond was ranked #1 in the state for business, and it was also named as the best place or best town to visit. That helps tremendously in our efforts to make this airport and this community a market for a destination market. Some of the accolades were mentioned by Dr. Glenn, but I'll just go over a couple of them because it would be easy for me to take credit for this, but I have a great team that surrounds me to help promote and make sure that the airport is running efficiently. So I want to mention just a few of the accolades we've achieved since I've been here. One is Virginia Green, which contributes to, that suggests that we contribute significantly to sustainability efforts in the community. Namely, we do a lot in terms of reducing the impact to the landfill. We have Global Biorisk Advisory Council certification as a STAR facility. Now, what that means is we go through a rigorous process of being certified as a STAR facility through the American Association of Airport Executives. We still maintain the standards of cleaning the facilities so it's hygienically safe and using the processes, procedures, and chemicals that are appropriate for ensuring that the environment is safe for the transportation and the movement of people and commerce. The Moody's Investor Service and the Fitch ratings are a testament to our financial acumen. I give credit to the entire finance team to making sure that we are in a position to fund our future. Great place to work for the last 4 years. We have a great culture. I contribute that to my team as well, who helps ensure that all of our employees feel appreciated and that they are heard. And the last was mentioned by Dr. Douglas Glenn, was the most efficient airport in North America for our airport size. That is no small matter. We work really hard to achieve that. In fact, I've been trying to achieve that recognition since Houston. And this is the place where it came into fruition. So I'm really proud of that accolade. And you could probably feel it as you navigate through our airport, how fast you move through the airport and how convenient it is. We are committed to supplier diversity, so we proactively encourage the community to participate in airport contracts and procurement. Every year we have a supplier diversity forum where we engage the community to accomplish two things. One, we want to make them aware of the opportunities that exist in the airport environment, and two, want to present them with an opportunity to become certified as a small business or a DB operator so that they can secure contracts to work in the airport environment. The Power University has been a huge success. At the end of that engagement, those who participate have the opportunity to win a stipend to help stimulate the growth of their business. I think in the last 2 years, we provided a $5,000 cash stipend to those who have had the best pitch for their business in that competition. So very proud of that. In terms of what we've been focusing on, we have been focusing on growth at the Richmond International Airport. One of the areas that we grow significantly is the number of destinations that we now serve. When I first arrived in the Richmond region, I had meetings with several of the business leaders in the community, and their number one concern was that there was not direct air service to the West Coast. When I arrived pre-COVID, there were 21 destinations, direct flights from Richmond International Airport. I'm happy to report today that there are 38 destinations, including one international destination that you can fly to and from the Richmond International Airport. So we have really been focused on that growth. And you can see that it's paid off significantly. We're still focused on that growth, and we're really directing a lot of our resources to the development of international operations in and out of Richmond International Airport. So Richmond International Airport may be a bit of a misnomer. We haven't had international flights from our airport, but we're designated as a Richmond International Airport because we have international cargo and mail that come in and out of that facility. So you have an international destination or designation if you have that kind of operation. But now I can say very proudly that starting on June 7th, we'll have an international flight to Hamilton, Bermuda. We are prepared for that, and we have the ability to facilitate international operations in and out of the airport. Let me just share with you how we have been growing. So over the last few years, particularly since I've been here, I arrived in 2019, we've had consecutive years of record-breaking growth. And I arrived in August 2019. Soon after that, the bottom fell out, COVID hit, and you can see right there in 2020, where we dropped down from 4.4 million passengers a year to just shy of 2 million passengers. In fact, I remember very clearly the day when I really felt the impact of COVID. I was leaving work. It was about 6 o'clock in the evening, and I remember seeing a young lady with, I think she had 2 children around her and one in her arm, and they were running uh, around her in circles, uh, saying something. I don't know what they were saying, but I remember thinking in my mind, wow, she really needs to get a hold of those kids. They're making a lot of noise. It hit me then that it really wasn't the noise that the children were making. What was missing is the ambient noise around from the hustle and bustle of 4.4 million passengers. That's when I really felt the impact of COVID. I have a coworker that can tell you the exact date and time. I'm not there, but he certainly could. From there, you can see the progressive growth. Again, we start engaging in or experiencing record-breaking traffic. In 2021, we moved to just about 3.2 million passengers. In 2022, we broke the 4 million barrier. In 2023, we broke our previous record of 4.4 million with just under 4.8 million passengers in and out of the airport. And now in 2024, we're just about 4.9. I must mention that during this transition between 2024 and 2025, we moved from the FAA's category of airports from a small hub airport to a medium hub airport. And there's implications with that. One, the small hub says we have anywhere from 0.5 to 1% of the total passengers that fly in the United States. Medium hub, I'm sorry, 0.5 to 0.25 to 0.1. The medium hub is 0.5 to 1. So we have entered in that classification of a medium hub airport, which means that we're eligible for less financial assistance from the federal government and have to rely more on our own ability to sustain operations. We have had record-breaking growth in cargo, as you can see. Since my arrival from 2019, we've directed a lot of focus on moving cargo in and out of the Richmond region. We are now at 220 million pounds of cargo, which is just about an 8% growth over previous period. So really significant, and one of the contributors of that is, as you're aware, I know if you're like me, in my household, after COVID, we started participating in a lot of online purchasing as opposed to going to the stores and shopping malls personally to select and procure or purchase items. So that was a big contributor to our growth in cargo. One of our prime operators, oh, this is going to sound funny. One of our prime operators is Prime Flight, who delivers for Amazon for their delivery of products. The operations, which is the movement of aircraft through taxi and takeoffs and landings at the airport, has also increased over the year. But if you notice, there is a decrease in the last year. Now, that's not a bad indicator. That's not an indicator of a decreased performance. It only means that the aircraft operators have moved from a smaller gauge aircraft to a larger gauge aircraft. So now, instead of seeing some of the regional aircraft that you have typically seen or flown out of Richmond to your preferred destinations, you will now see larger aircraft flying out of the airport. So in other words, more passengers on a plane then translates to less operations on the airfield. As I mentioned earlier, we are really proud to be an airport in the community that flies internationally. So on June 7th, if you haven't booked your ticket already, I'm gonna just say you're late because it's sold out. In fact, I usually designate a team member to fly on an inaugural flight from my airport. We missed the opportunity to get on board and fly this inaugural flight. It's already booked up. So if your intent was to go and, walk among and dip your feet in the blue waters and experience the pink sands of Bermuda on that day, you've missed an opportunity. I think they've sold out for a few weeks, so it's probably a good idea. I'm sorry, a few months. So if you really want to visit those pink sands and those clear waters, you might want to go and check their website to see if you can book a flight in the near future. We also have a new destinations offered through Spirit, which is one of our most economical operators at the airport. So now they're flying to LaGuardia, Fort Lauderdale, and Orlando. So I think they're also, they're flying to Detroit as well. So this new operation to LaGuardia and Detroit is an economical opportunity for you to fly to those destinations from the Richmond International Airport. How are we building a better way for you to fly at Richmond International Airport? Let me just share with you what that is. When I arrived, as I indicated, I met with leaders, and one of their suggestions were to get flights to the West Coast. What I didn't hear was a lot of talk about international operations, but upon my arrival, I found that there was a Federal Inspection Services facility, but it had been decommissioned. And I knew that this area was prime for international operations. So one of the first things I did was launch a project to upgrade the Federal Inspections facility so that we can accommodate international operations in and out of the Richmond International Airport. It was I think a $7 million investment, and I'm happy to inform you that in August of 2024, that project was complete, and we're now able to process or facilitate the movement of people in and out of this country as a port of entry from the international position standpoint. The next significant project that we will engage in, which will start in 2026, we're already in the design phase, is to consolidate our security checkpoint. If you've taken a flight out of the airport, you know that if you are taking Delta Airlines, you have to go through the checkpoint to the right, which is Concourse B. You fly an American, then you're going to the left to go to the checkpoint, which is in Concourse A. Now, what this will enable us to do is create more efficiency in terms of the movement of people so that you go through one checkpoint and you go to either concourse depending on the flight you will take. Now, what this also will do is facilitate the connection of people that arrive in our airport and want to go to a different destination. So imagine, if you would, if you're flying internationally from London, 8-hour flight, you get off the airplane, you go through the friendly process of being entering the country through the federal inspection process. Then you exit that, you collect your bag, and then you're told that, oh, you have to go through the checkpoint and wait in that line next. So this will eliminate that as a process. So once you go through the federal inspection process, you can just move from one concourse to the other without having to be going through the checkpoint as well. Our preliminary design for this is a 10-lane operation which will create efficiencies not just for us, but also for one of our strategic partners, the Transportation Security Administration. What that'll enable them to do is operate more efficiently because they now will not have to operate two separate checkpoints. For example, if you have one flight coming in at, one late night flight coming in Concourse A and one late flight coming in Concourse B, you have to man both checkpoints. At this point, now you don't have to man both checkpoints. You decrease your size of number of people that have to work and operate maybe one lane to facilitate both checkpoints. So this is the preliminary design. It also enables us to maximize opportunities to generate non-aeronautical revenue. What I mean by non-aeronautical revenue is revenue that's generated from food and beverage, retail. This area right here is available for concessions. So a lot of concession space being made available through the consolidation of the checkpoint concessions. Concessions will be able to accomplish that. Project, by the way, that project for the consolidated checkpoint is approximately 180 million, 140 million. This project is 120 million, which is the ARF station, Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting Station. Right now, the existing fire station is in the middle of our airfield, and the airport is built on the headway of the White Oak Swamp. So in reality, the current facility is literally sinking in the swamp. Not only that, is built at a time when there was no such thing as co-ed firefighters, so it's not built to facilitate both male and female firefighters. The new facility will, and the third thing is that it is in the middle of the airfield. You have to cross an active runway and taxiway to get to this facility, which means you have to, contact a tower before you can even get to the facility. That just creates an unsafe operation. The new facility will be built proximal to the roadway, still within the airport operations area, but you don't have to cross any active runways or taxiways to reach it. It will be built to accommodate both male and female firefighters, which we have, and it won't be sinking. So we're glad of that. We are installing for the conveyance of the movement of vehicles and parking of vehicles with a guidance system that will enable the people to enter into our garage and essentially find a location to park without spending a lot of time circling. And if you've come to the airport recently, you know that there's a limited space in terms of parking, and oftentimes during peak areas, peak periods, it's difficult to find a space. Just to give you a general sense of what it looks like, it's a system of red and green lights that when you enter the garage, if you look down a row, if there's a parking space that's occupied by a vehicle, it will be red. If it's a vacant spot, it will be green. And as you enter or you get close to the lane, it gives you a number of spots in terms of where you might be able to locate a parking space. The next project will involve connecting the rental car operation with the terminal. Right now, if you go rent a car at the airport, if you're arriving, you go downstairs, you meet with the rental car operators, they tell you where to go to the garage, you exit the terminal, you walk outside, whether it's rain, snowing, or whatever, and then you get to the garage and you find your vehicle. We will enclose the walkway between the terminal and the garage so that you don't have to experience the heat, the cold, of the elements so that it's a convenient transition from the terminal to the rental car area. It will also enable us to move the rental cars to that area and expanding opportunities down in the baggage claim for additional amenities for passengers. I don't know if I mentioned this, but we got a new flight, international operations to Bermuda. Love to see you come through our airport. It's launching on June 7th, so you can dip your toe in the clear waters and feel the pink sands. And that's kind of it. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Well, thank you, Dr. Miller, for that amazing presentation. It was very comprehensive and forward-looking. We heard some truly impressive highlights from the airport's 2.1 billion regional economic impact to your record-setting passenger and cargo volumes and forthcoming infrastructure investments like the consolidated security checkpoint and your new international terminal capabilities. Your presentation definitely makes it clear that RIC is not just a transit hub, but a civic and economic engine shaping the future of our region, and that Richmond is firmly on the global map. I also want to say, as part of my presentation, preparation for today's conversation, I took a flight out of RIC yesterday, and I must say that I experienced was very smooth. It was efficient, and I could tell or see the noticeable upgrades. So I want to say it was definitely an easy to navigate and pleasant way to travel.
I'm glad to hear that, because I know you tell me if it wasn't.
I definitely would, but I do that in private. I do that in private. So now
Very
I want to
cool.
open up the conversation. I'll begin with a few questions to get us started with questions from our audience. Okay. So if you could talk to us about there's given growing demands of accessibility and sustainable transportation. Are there any immediate plans to increase the frequency and speed of bus services or either bus routes that connect to the airport? How accessible are we making the airport to the larger community?
That's a very good question. I think one of the things that makes this community unique is the close proximity of the burgeoning communities or suburbs around it. I mean, it's unique to me to have strong counties, but there are a number of other smaller counties that are in close proximity to the airport. So I my team is working on figuring out a way to move people efficiently from those outlying areas so they can get to the airport with relative ease. So a bus operation is one. And another asset that's really underutilized here is at the south side of the airport, at the border, there's a rail that borders our airport. So another way to efficiently facilitate the movement of people to and from the airport is to generally create a multimodal facility that doesn't just facilitate the movement of people by ground vehicles, but also by rail too. So we're looking at all those. And of course, there's the advent of the AAM that we need to take into consideration in the future that might connect communities together as well. So all of those things we're considering. We are right now in the process of developing two very important instruments. One, we're developing our master plan that needs to be updated, that gives us our outlook for 10 to 20 years. And then we are in the process of also redeveloping our strategic plan. So we just start that process. So you'll see a number of things that come out of that will connect us or connect our communities together so that RIC is not just an efficient airport for those communities that are near, but also efficient for those communities that are not so near to use our airport as well.
Great, that's a great point, and I appreciate you bringing in, as you say, the multimodal ways of transportation that our community currently has access to. It's a big conversation, and I think for those of us who are regular citizens, we tend to think of bus and rail, but we don't think about how air transportation plays into that from our own personal usage. So thank you
Right.
for that. Another question from our audience is really wanting to understand how you promote small business engagement with the airport. So for example, what opportunities are there for local artists or local makers to have their products or services available for purchase in the airport to promote local goods? So when we travel in different areas of the country, sometimes we'll see various pop-up shops. Are there those kind of opportunities as you think about your master plan in the future?
Mhm. Yeah, as a matter of fact, if you would have flown through Dr. Douglas Glenn last week, you would have seen um, pop-up kiosks from the community. So we had a number of vendors that utilize our space and, to see if it was a test to see if it would work and see if people could sell their wares and in the airport. And quite frankly, I was very impressed with that. So we do promote that. And as I mentioned earlier, every year we have Power Together forum. And in that forum, we try to get as many local participants as possible. We advertise through the EVA system. We reach out to people who already know to say, hey, you really need to come to this forum so we can present what kinds of procurement opportunities, what kinds of construction opportunities are available for vendors. Because quite frankly, one of my goals is to ensure that we have a sense of place in terms of the experience of food and of art, right? So we have in the very near future um, a capital project that's at least $500 million, right? So small business, minority-owned business, women-owned business, they need to be a part of that, need to participate. So if you're not going to that forum, I encourage you go to that forum because, like I mentioned, two things are going to happen. You're going to be aware of the procurement opportunities and the construction opportunities. Look, all of it, we use pen, paper, pencils, toilet paper, all that stuff. Just like any, think of an airport as a small city. Every discipline it takes to run a small city, we have it. So we have a need to procure those things. Come to that forum, you'll get an opportunity to see what we're going to spend our money on. And if you enter, you get an opportunity to get certified as a DB participant or a small business.
Great, thank you. I think many of our viewers will take advantage of that opportunity going forward. One of our guests mentioned that they've had wonderful experiences flying through Richmond as a blind person. They talk about they fly a lot, particularly for family reasons, and they're interested in knowing how does RIC train its staff, particularly in high turnover customer service roles, to effectively support persons or travelers with disabilities?
That's a very good question. I just attended a conference in Madrid, Spain. It was called the Passenger Experience Expo. And one of the things that I learned is that we're really not doing enough to accommodate people that fly with disabilities. So we'll spend a lot more effort to accomplish. I'm glad that, he had a good experience, but I think we could do a lot better. I don't remember the name of the individual I met, but he has an application. It's called Map something. But in essence, what it does is allow somebody who has an impediment to sight to navigate the airport very easily using this app. So we're looking to employ the use of that app, and we're also looking to ensure that we enable people who have other disabilities to navigate the airport with relative ease. Now, we require anyone that works in the airport that obtains a badge to go through our customer service training. And part of our training is, you have to understand how to meet the needs of people with disabilities. We have a DAISY program, which helps us meet the needs of people who experience autism or those kinds of disabilities. So we spend a lot of effort in terms of try to understand, first of all, what the needs are, and then to try and meet those needs as well.
Great. We're going to transition our conversation a little bit. We've been hearing news about disruptions at sister airports across the country, and it's highlighted vulnerabilities in infrastructure and staffing. Could you talk to us a little bit about how Richmond is proactively addressing some of these systemic issues? And if you could focus a little bit on any concerns or those, outages and how you're preparing for those, both in real time, but also future oriented.
Well, let me just say, first of all, that air travel is the safest way of travel. I know that there's a lot of sensationalism when an aircraft accident occurs, but they are so far and few in between, which enables those who measure those statistics to come to the conclusion that, air travel is still the safest way to travel. Having said that, we still focus a lot of attention on safety. Safety is the number one priority at any airport. And so we collaborate real closely with those who help ensure our safety, namely the Federal Aviation Administration and the Transportation and Security Administration. We are very fortunate to have the Federal Bureau of Investigation as one of our primary tenants. And we invest a lot of resources in terms of airfield safety to ensure that that the aircraft can navigate in and out of the airfield with safety as well. I think one of the technologies you will see us trying to utilize in the near future is the use of drone technology to do some perimeter and security inspections. So I would not be discouraged by what you're seeing in terms of things that's occurred in Newark, New Jersey area with the aging or the loss of radar. Because I'm gonna just tell you this: when I was in college, I had two professors that required me to understand the NIPIS, the National Plan of Integrated Airport Systems, and also how air traffic control works. You don't need radar to determine where an aircraft is or how to navigate or move an aircraft safely through the airspace. What you must have is altitude and speed. And if in times past, before, the prolific use of radar, people could watch the clock, look at the altimeter, look at, how fast it's going and how high it was, and determine the spacing from an aircraft. So as long as you have communication with the pilot, as long as there's communications, the pilot can get you safely to and from an airport.
Great. So that sounds to me like you're talking about there's some fundamental skills that as professionals in this workspace that you need to be trained for and understand. And those skills, regardless of what's happening from a technology or infrastructure perspective, they tend to remain in this process. So that helps us transition into questions from our audience related to an education standpoint, outreach programs. We have a number of a professor here from Hampton University who wants to know what kinds of opportunities, outreach programs are there available for undergraduate students? Are there opportunities to coordinate internship opportunities, workforce opportunities? So if you could talk to us a little bit about how does one go about getting involved in this kind of profession?
Sure. So my arrival is a little unique, and it doesn't have to be this way, but my degree is in airway science, as you mentioned. And so I entered into the field through an internship. I started off as a student intern in Houston and worked my way all the way up to be a part of the executive leadership team there. But as I mentioned earlier, an airport is like a small city, so you don't necessarily have to major in aviation. We need accountants, we need lawyers, we need plumbers, we need electricians. We have policemen, we have firemen. Anything that you can think of is probably applicable in the airport environment. So I would say don't worry too much about the discipline, because you can enter into an environment in the workforce of aviation in any way. But if you are interested in discipline, I would say focus on the area that of your interest. We do offer internship opportunities. We've collaborated with your university, right? We have fellows that work in our environment. I think we've had maybe 6 or 7, maybe more than that so far. We have a relationship with Richard Bland College. We have a relationship with VCU. So, in fact, since I started as an intern, I'm pro-intern. So if you are interested in an internship here, I try to find ways to create a position for an internship.
Well, great. I appreciate you saying that. And you heard it here first. He is pro internship. And so get your resumes and your vitas prepared to take advantage of the opportunities at RIC. This question has
Absolutely.
come up from our audience. Given the increased competition among regional airports for air service expansion, how does RIC strategically position itself to attract carriers and routes that benefit the region's economic viability? So, for example, an audience member asked, is the Norfolk Airport expansion having any impact on RIC?
I would say the Norfolk expansion is not. There's enough pie to share. And what I would say is, what I've seen in the region is that it collaborates very well in this region. So our competition is essentially other states, other regions. So as I mentioned, there's enough pie in the region for all the airports to thrive. What we need to do is kind of focus our attention on how to attract service and businesses to our community as a whole. One of the ways that we make sure that we're able to compete for domestic and international traffic is to keep our costs low, right? The airlines look at the bottom line. How much is going to cost for me to operate out of your facility? So airports typically use 1 or 2, or hybrid ways of allocating their expenses to those who utilize the facility through fees. Airports are enterprise organizations. We do not get any taxes from the general coffer. We are responsible for generating our own revenue from user fees, which is sometimes, people think that, their tax dollars are being used at the airport. They're not. So the 2 ways of, compensatory or residual. Now, it all has to do with risk, right? Compensatory airports, the way they allocate their expenses is they take on most of the risks, right? They, build the facilities or invest in facilities and charge the rents to recover the expense, right? A residual, the airlines or the tenants typically take on the risk and they build facilities and then recoup expenses only for what they use. At our airport, we use a hybrid. We collect 100%. We have a residual operation for the airfield. We collect 100% of the use of the airfield from the airlines. We use a compensatory model for the terminal. So we invest in the facilities. We let those out in terms of rents and fees so that we can fund the development of our airport that way. So the way we are able to collect or attract more service is to keep those expenses low as possible. Does that make sense?
It does definitely make
Hope
sense.
so.
Thank you.
Hope so.
Let's see. As a travel manager at VCU, I often have travelers commute to DC to fly internationally, stating that the fare to fly out of Richmond is far greater with the included connection. What can be done to make those fares more competitive? So how is that
What I just
determined?
what I just mentioned is keeping our costs low so we can have
Okay.
competitive rates. But what I'll often tell people to consider before they drive to another location, whether it's south or north, I can't say those airports names like profanity out of my mouth, sorry.
I get it.
But look, you need to consider some costs like parking. how much it costs to park there, how much it costs, not just for the fare, is it competitive? How much is your time worth to drive, right? I'm just not going to spend a lot of time on the roadway to make a flight connection. I'm not going to do it. And plus, it's unpredictable. What happens if there's an accident on the freeway? Am I going to miss my flight? Do I have enough time to take an alternate route? First of all, I don't even know an alternate route to get. I haven't been there long enough to figure out where I'm going.
I get it. No, and I always say, I think sometimes when we think about those fares, when you're going, so the trip from either of those airport areas is 2 hours about
Yeah,
driving. There's a lot of excitement and adrenaline that's building up when you're anticipating the trip. But on the
that's right.
way back, that
Oh
2 hour
no.
drive, and
Woo.
sort of have to factor that in that you probably didn't schedule an additional work day,
That's
additional
right.
vacation day before you got to go back to work. Those are the kinds of costs that we need to consider,
That's
as
right.
you say, as you're considering all of the costs. To think beyond RIC. So we're not encouraging that at all today.
No, not at
Uh,
all.
let's think about here. Excuse me. I've got a lot more questions coming in about making this a more convenient experience for our local
Mhm.
travelers, thinking about particularly maybe our students who might fly. Are there ways to connect this to the pulse? We've also talked about having more convenient access again to experiences such as shuttle services between hotels. I think we've covered some of this, but it's still coming up with different nuances. So if you could talk to
Yeah,
us about maybe some specific strategies that are under work or in
yeah.
the works right now.
So one of the things that we are evaluating now is scheduled ground transportation. So what we need to find out is, where is the largest number of people that need the economical movement to and from the airport, right? So
Mhm.
if we schedule a bus service, will that operator be able to make any money, right? So that's currently under uh, under review. But another economical way to get to the airport is through GRTC. GRTC doesn't, I don't think they charge a fare. Is that correct? To catch the bus?
Right now, they don't right now, but there are some discussions with the changing tide
Yeah.
from a policy perspective that they may be changing in the future.
Okay. So you could take advantage of GRTC right now before they, start charging fare. But outside that, it'll, as I mentioned, we're looking at our strategic plan, and that's one of the things we're taking into consideration, whether or not to solicit through a request for proposal, scheduled ground transportation operator to and from key locations in the region, so that we can accommodate the movement of people that live in those regions, or those areas that are, in reasonably close proximity to the airport, to the airport.
Great. Well, we have to, this has been a lovely and engaging conversation. I do have to transition. They're telling me to my last conversation. So I want to get to know a little bit about you as an opportunity for us to reflect on our own leadership. As we discussed before, I've taught leadership for many years, and I look forward to inviting you to talk to my
Mhm.
leadership class this year. What advice would you offer to someone who aspires to be in your shoes one day, thinking about an executive level position, a public institution or authority? What are the mindsets, habits, and principles that help guide and shape your leadership?
I think one of the things that really helped me is, I had some great professors. One, I had some professors that really poured into me the importance of servant leadership. You really need to put people, you have to have you have to have compassion for people, right? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to help people move from one place to another, and it can be pretty stressful. So you need to, have a mindset that um, you're here to serve their needs. So if you are here to serve their needs, you need to figure out really quickly how to identify what their needs are. And I just, be honest with you, I started, I practiced with my family,
Mm.
right? I saw myself as a leader early on, and I would, experiment with, you know, my wife would tell you that, I'd come home and practice someone says, she tell me in a minute, don't bring that stuff here.
All right, today is not the day for that.
Today is not the day. But practice with your family, how you can meet their needs. And if you understand their needs, if you do, how can you meet it? That's really what it all boils down to. Because if you are really good at that, your employees will respect that, right? Because they know that you genuinely care for them. And if you care for them, they will transfer that care to those who utilize in your service.
Yes, no, that is such a great way to think about leadership and the work that we do in public service as well. And so I just want to thank you, Dr. Miller, for your time today. I want to thank you for your continued support of the Wilder School. Particularly, I know you've supported our Wilder Fellows and shown great care in that experience with our students as well. We really appreciate your investment in our students. And just one additional feather in your cap, one of our attendees today says that they are very proud to have such a nice airport in our city, and especially for our many students and visitors. So I appreciate having this conversation with you today, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much to our speaker and our moderator, Dr. Miller and Dr. Douglas Glenn. What an amazing conversation. I wish I caught the Bermuda trip, but maybe next time. Thank you to our communications team in the background who's helping us make this work. Thank you to Dean Gooden. One final announcement is to save the date for our next Lunch and Learn, which is scheduled for June 18th at noon. We're excited to have Shannon Pierce, who's the president and CEO of Virginia Natural Gas. She will be speaking on the topic of fueling the future of workforce development. So please keep an eye out for that invitation in your inbox. We would love to see everyone there. Again, thank you to everyone for sharing your lunch hour with us. We appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you again.